Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. It's Thursday, I believe. I don't even know what days it is anymore. It is Thursday. Debate amongst friends. Doc Leesner, the podcast based back for your daily debate amongst friends, which you're going to hear 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, alongside the Professor John Gotti, the king of RNG, the troll master, etc., etc., etc. And guess what? None of it will ever be redacted.
Everything's redacted because I am the best podcasting machine and the least hype machine. Doc, as always, we are going to be here tranquilo. Doc El Idolo, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Glad we're over that Bishop Sycamore crap. And we're on to some other news here. Really quickly. I know. There's more details coming out. They're trying to schmooze it a little bit, but we'll wait till all the details come out, and then
it's getting ugly.
We'll wait for the, as you said, the 30 for 30 to come out.
We'll probably hear more about it over the
weekend. Yeah. But in the NBA news yesterday, Clint Capella getting a 2-year extension worth $46 million. Capella, who had 2 years left on his current contract, is set to make $82 million over the next 4 seasons, which I think he deserves it. He's a guy, obviously, came from Houston that I wanted to keep. I think him and somebody like Christian Wood would have played very well together, which is what they're doing in Atlanta. So that's pretty awesome. Yep. But we'll see. We'll see if they keep them together or if, this is a trade piece. We'll have to wait and see.
It's too soon to tell right now. Clint Capella over the next 4 years is going to be making around $81 million, which is pretty sweet for him.
Yeah, he deserves it. But in addition, I know. I mean, like I said, I wish we would have kept him, but I understood.
I wasn't going to go there. I figured once they're not a Rocket anymore, they're dead to you. So
no, not Clint. I wouldn't say not Clint. Clint's my guy, man. It wasn't his fault. He didn't ask for a trade or anything. It was that guy, Jarrell. I'm gonna trade everybody more. But it's all good. In more positive news, the Memphis Grizzlies announced that they will raise their first jerseys into the rafters. Zach Randolph, that's right, Zebo's number 50 jersey, and Tony Allen's number 9 jersey. As soon as the season kicks off, actually, it will be honored on December 11th versus the Rockets. Actually,
how I prefer.
And then Tony Allen will be celebrated on January 29th versus the Jazz. And of course, 28th. I have my glasses on. Excuse me, folks. But that's awesome. I'm glad the Grizzlies, obviously Zebo, a beast. One of the dying breeds of the mid-range and the actual back to the basket game. His post game was really, really strong. I've always respected it. And just seeing the likes of like a Julius Randle type of player at that time, even though Julius has extended his range, I would say that Randolph has always been
sometimes Julius needs to stop trying to extend that range. That's between us.
No, I get it. But moving over to the gridiron, and speaking of retirements and hanging jerseys in the rafters, Jarrell Casey has announced his retirement. The former Pro Bowl defensive lineman, who was a great player for the Tennessee Titans for several years, retired with 51 sacks, which, of course, is the second most in franchise history, of course, behind the freak, Javon Curse. But, I mean, 85 tackles for loss. I don't know if this is, Hall of Fame worthy, but I know he really, really was a huge staple in that Tennessee defense for quite the many years.
So you think he'll be in the Hall of Very Good then?
I think that's a good way to put it. And again, there are a lot of defensive tackles who make great plays, obviously, but I don't know if this is a Hall of Fame worthy career. But we'll have to wait and see. They always kind of.
Fortunately, that's up to the committee, and what they determine is Hall of Fame worthy changes year to year and per person to person.
Person to person, exactly. And lastly, Johnny, yesterday I just so happened to be on Bleacher Report. Shout out to Bleacher Report for some of their content.
Sometimes.
Yeah, some of their content. Best available players after the NFL 2021 roster cut. It looks like there's 11 players on this list. Some of them never had any, haven't gone to any teams, for tryouts or anything from what I've noticed. Of course, the aforementioned Cam Newton this week, obviously getting cut by the New England Patriots. Obviously, there's some talk about him going to Dallas, but I don't know if that story has any legs yet.
That has any traction. I feel like that's people just throwing stuff on the wall and hoping it stick.
Yeah. Or throwing it on the wall and hoping that Jerry Jones makes it stick.
Which would just make Jerry Jones the most gullible owner / GM / president.
Agreed. The also aforementioned receiver Brashad Perriman at number 2, which I'm surprised he's number 2, but he did have, like I said, a strong showing with the Bucks a few years ago, and then he had a short stint with the Jets. But this season he just couldn't, or this offseason he couldn't hang on to the job with the Lions, who are trying to build a new culture there. So it's kind of rough.
It is.
I am surprised by this number 3, but then again, it's the Philadelphia Eagles.
Of course.
2020 standout receiver Travis Fulgham, who was a fantasy football stud for several weeks.
Absolutely.
He did fizzle out, but he had 539 yards, 4 touchdowns with 8 starts. Of course, he, again, was a little inconsistent, but so were the Eagles in their quarterback play.
I'm so glad you said that, because I was literally going to say that. Like, I don't think his decrease in performance is more on him. I think it was just on the Eagles.
Right.
Like,
right. And I mean,
you can't take that and put that underneath the microscope and just say, oh, it's Travis's fault, and it's only his fault.
And just a quick stat here. I mean, he only dropped 2 out of the 67 passes on which he was targeted. So it's not. So yeah, I mean, which is awesome, because there's some, which they had another person, I believe it was Alshon Jeffrey or one of those other players that the Eagles had that dropped a lot of freaking passes.
It was Dustin Aguilar at the time.
Justin Aguilar, that's it. That's the guy. Nelson. Oh, why did I say Justin? What's my problem? Nelson Aguilar. That is it right there. And he dropped a lot of passes. But the good thing for Fulgham, he's only 25 years old, and I think he'll get a chance to be. He has a lot
to contribute to a team. Right now, according to that article, the Saints, Patriots, and the Falcons are potential suitors for him. Mm-hmm. I could see him joining a 49ers team, and I mean, there's a lot of teams that he could just join and just have an immediate impact as a deep threat. Like, don't sleep on Travis Fulgham. He's really, really good. He just needs to be in a good system that allow his talent to shine.
I agree, and the next goes for the same. The same thing goes for the next person in John Brown, which given the
he should have never left Arizona.
I can agree with that. I agree with that. But he is 31 now. He's a speed receiver. I wouldn't be surprised if, a team that loves speed, a la the Bucks, the Saints, New England, again, takes a shot. The same teams are on this list as well. Indianapolis Colts.
They do have receiver needs.
Yeah, Indianapolis Colts.
But the Colts, I think the Colts can do great with him, though, because they need a deep threat, because they lost T.Y. Hilton for a while.
Yes, I know the whole neck thing that we mentioned this week. Then you have tackle Russell Okung, who's been a really, really solid player. He did have some injuries over the last couple of years, 2 holding penalties within the last 407 snaps. I don't know. I mean, obviously, there are some teams that are going to need some depth. Personally, with the offensive line, I think it's always best to get them in as early as possible.
Yep.
I don't like that. And that goes the same for Mitchell Schwartz, who's the next person as well, and David Decastro. I like to get the offensive lineman in early. I think out of of the three of them, I'm actually more surprised that David Decastro is still on the actual list. Obviously, 6-time Pro Bowl guard. He played 13 games and only allowed 2 sacks in his last 4 seasons with the Steelers. And, them Steeler linemen usually are pretty solid. So I'm pretty surprised that DeCastro is still on the list.
For now.
And for now. But again,
I think he'll be the first one to get snatched up.
Yeah, and it might just take an injury. Yep. But we'll see. Let's see. So the last 3 here, we have edge rusher Ifeadi Odigbo. Odigbo. So he had 27 years. I think this is more of a potential guy. This guy might be where. Yeah, I think this guy might be where maybe a Shaq Lawson or I would say Shaq Barrett before he took off in Denver, not even with the Bucks, before he took off with Denver and learning from Von Miller. I think this is where this person is, and he has potential, leaving him number 8, which I'm surprised that he's above, the next person, McKinney, obviously the linebacker. But again, injuries, are starting to play a factor in some of these players. And that goes the same thing for Richard Sherman, who, of course, injuries and
the arrest as well.
The arrest. But he also wants to go on a team that's...
He'll join the Cowboys.
Wow.
I went there.
Wow.
I went there.
And the last person is Jimmy Moreland, who, of course, it says here, isn't a star, but he didn't surrender a single touchdown of coverage for the Washington football season in the last 2 years, that's pretty impressive. I mean, they must have really looked through some things to find that little nugget. That's pretty awesome, though.
First of all, give them kudos so you even find that little nugget.
Right. He allowed a passer rating of just 74.1 on throws into his coverage. That's pretty awesome. I'm not 100% sure why the Washington football team would have cut somebody like that, but that's pretty awesome.
Hopefully they don't pull a Urban Myers and put it out there for the media to know.
True. Very true. And before we wrap up here, just quick breaking news. It looks like the Brooklyn Nets have went ahead and signed free agent Paul Milsap, which, of course, helps them out somewhat tremendously because I think Millsap can still go.
He could still really, really go.
Mm-hmm. No details just yet, but Shams has broken that deal. So it doesn't even show what the year is or anything like that, but that's awesome.
Probably going to be a 1-year veteran minimum.
That's actually really, really awesome, though. I'm really happy for him because not so much for joining Brooklyn, but the fact that he's still getting a shot to play. So, because I know he can still
he's going to play for automatic playoff contention team too, which is even better.
True. And honestly, he can actually slide. He can just slide right into that starting lineup.
He can.
Because some of the other guys, they can go. And I know the Nets are also looking to trade Deandre Jordan.
Yes.
And that they're actually looking for a first-round pick for a guy who sat on the bench during the playoffs. Exactly.
That didn't happen. I'm sorry. I can't do that.
But you know what is happening, Johnny? The people out there, I know they heard this show on their favorite podcast platform. But if they didn't, they can always go to our website at www.debateamongstfriends.com, not only to hear this episode, but all of the previous. Be sure to tune in Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for more news, more analysis, and the reads.
Dr. Yacht.